And I quote, "We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or black. By getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin, and criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt those communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know we were lining with the drugs? Of course we did. This is what John Ehrlichman, one of the big players in the Watergate scandal, which, if you don't know, was what toppled down Nixon. He's one of the big players in that. He admitted this in 1994 in a news report. He himself said it. He himself saw Nixon's presidency. He had a front row seat to all of it. He said this on the record. The war, it's been called the war on drugs, but it's the war on brown and black people. I mean, this right here, it shows the war on brown. Well, it's just the people who the government sees are against them. People who are against the war, which is something that they choose, and then people for their color. So which one is worse? Being against them because of their ideals, or being against them because of their color? When I'm saying we need to end the war on drugs, I don't mean we need to legalize all the drugs. I don't think that's good, but I'm just saying we need to decriminalize it. We just need to make it so that we shift the idea of it being like an era of character. It's not like, is it wickedness or is it weakness being like a drug addict? Are you a bad person for being a drug addict, or are you more kind of a weak person, someone who needs help? It's like punishing someone for being suicidal. It's like sending someone to prison for wanting to kill themselves. You're punishing someone for hurting their own selves. Yes, it hurts other people, but it's mostly concentrated inwards. It's mostly concentrated on the individual. We're punishing them for it. You wouldn't do that. You'd help them. You'd try to rehabilitate them to make them better. It's the same thing with drugs. And also, it is very lopsided when it comes to what races get punished. For one thing, there's about 17 million white people who are reported using an illegal drug, and this was like they said within the last month. 4 million black people have, in this report from the NAACP. With that in mind, as well as the fact that black people only make up 12.5% of the population, they make up a third of those incarcerated for drug crimes. 3 times as likely to be incarcerated when they do the drugs 4 times less. It's the war on brown and black people. And it also isn't even their fault. It's not our fault for it. They brought the drugs here. They brought over military planes, like Oliver North. He was convicted of this all. He was convicted of conspirating to help the Congolese people. They brought they brought the cocaine and crack here over planes. And it's not really just Oliver North. That's just the one who they pinned it all on. They saw they try and make it seem like it's not the institution that's wrong. They just put it all on one person. It's a very common strategy that they use. Very common. And one piece that I've seen from like media is The Boys. They do that exact thing. Stillwell and Vought. If you've seen the show, you get it. A solution, however, could be to try and legalize it in certain ways. We could do like what the Swiss have done, what the Germans have done. Especially, I'm talking about the Swiss. They've done what they've called heroin-assisted treatment. They did this about 1991-ish. And with all the assisted treatment ones, there has been no opioid overdoses that have led to a death. No non-fatal overdoses, and no serious medical complications in 30 years. Zero. It's just like prohibition. You can't stop it. You can only add more regulations to it and make it safer because they're already here. The drugs are already here. You can't get rid of them. We tried to with prohibition, and we know how that worked out. It was terrible. It became even more dangerous. It became even worse because people would do it in very unsafe ways. Things that didn't have regulations. And they made it even more potent because it was very hard to store large amounts. they've had to make these drugs even more potent, even stronger, because it's hard to have a large quantity of it. It's a lot easier to have a small amount of it. We need to do it differently than how we handled the opioid epidemic. That was done because we did no regulations. We made it very easy to get, almost no regulations. We do not want that. We do not want what's happening with fentanyl, which is very easy to get. We need to have very heavy regulations, just like alcohol, just like tobacco. There's a reason you don't really see like teenagers don't get it, like trying to find a plug. No, you just try and get an adult to buy, because there's really no other way to get it. There's really only way to get it is official ways, through stores, through liquor stores. It becomes a lot easier to regulate, and we can tax it. We can give more money to fund treatments. We can help save generations of brown and black people from this, because it doesn't, when, for example, one black man gets locked up, it's just not just the one man's life who's ruined. It's not just his life that's ruined. Think about his mother. Think about his father. If he has kids, think about their children. Struggles of our lives usually start at home. And if we don't have a parent, it's even worse. 63% of suicides come from households that only have one parent. 63. It's almost 2/3 of it. 2/3. And we're further pushing for it. We've had this war on drugs for over 50 years and it hasn't worked. If you have a war for 50 years and it doesn't work, why would you continue to do it? We've spent over $1 trillion fueling this. And it's only made it worse. The amount of drug overdoses has increased over the last 50 years. Increased. And the amount of incarcerated people, oh my God, it has grown astronomically. It's like 7 times higher now than it was when the war started. 7 times. That's what led to this era of mass incarceration. It was the war on drugs. We really need to think past the titles, think past the obvious parts. Is it the war on drugs, or is it the war on minorities?